Hi, I'm Stanley Ray, and today I will be breaking down my brand new album, This Is Me. I grew up, born and raised in Mount Vernon, a really small town, and I was always a little boy that loved music. From a very young age, I was very in tune with music, but it wasn't just like in tune as in I listened to it and I danced and I sang along with it. Like I had like this music really like touched me from a young age and it resonated with me, and I was a deep feeler from a young age anyway, just from life and personal experiences. So music was not only a safety net for me, but just in general, the way music makes me feel and how I have like a sharp ear for certain songs and certain sounds and certain voices and harmonies and all these different things. I was just always a little boy that was so in tune with music, and I just eventually reached the age where I was like, I have to do this. I started recording music at 8 years old. I would really low budget and ghetto. I would use the little Kodak camcorder, and back then I called it freestyle singing. I look back now and I have no idea how the heck I had a talent like that so young, because today I could never do something like that. But I would freestyle sing one take all the way through, and I would go back and I would listen to it and hold it up to my ear, and I would pretend I was listening to myself on the radio. And back then, where I was going with that is, it was something I did for fun at that age. I didn't think about being famous yet. But until I was about 12 or 13 in like 7th or 8th grade, and I decided, I think I'm gonna do this professionally. And I sat out, then I started recording more songs and demos all throughout the rest of my school years, my preteen, teenage years, high school, up until I graduated when I was 18. I'm proud of how far I came and how grounded I used to be. It taught me pretty young what goes behind recording a song and how it's tedious sometimes depending on the song, and it takes hours. You can't just spit on a mic one time and the song is done. If you're a perfectionist, like I learned to be very young, you have to really put in the hours and put in the work to build a body of a song and then, create it. I was not a normal kid. I sacrificed a lot because I knew where I was going in life. I missed out on homecomings and proms. I didn't care for those things anyway, but I made a choice to not attend those things and be a regular teenager because I rather stay home and write records and record. It sounds weird, but I really was that kid. I didn't experience those things because I sacrificed it to do this. My childhood was not easy. We weren't rich, but we weren't poor either, definitely not. And what humbles me to this day is my old childhood home, which is right down the street from the projects. So we didn't have everything, but we also didn't have nothing. We always had just enough growing up. Predominantly raised by my dad. My mom was there, but she was more in and out, and that's something that really affected me growing up because I was such a mama's boy. The other side of that is, though my dad was around more, he had a problem. He was an alcoholic and he often got violent when he drank, and it was something having to see that growing up and seeing my mom, be physically assaulted pretty often. It did something to my psyche as a youngin'. And the only reason I'm being open about this today is because, one, it's fair to open up eventually to my fans that love to listen to me and want to get to know me. But two, it comes back full circle when I come to talk about This Is Me, my recent album, because it's such a personal album for me. I recently just turned 25 years old like a month ago. And I have to say to this day that a lot of those things I experienced growing up are still very hard for me. I still may have a nightmare or two from time to time, or have like a random flashback, and I'll go in my room and cry sometimes. My dad's been gone 8 years now, and it's still just not easy to like let go or really forgive him. It's something I'm still kind of working on, but that's the reason why I put my pain in my music, and I'm blessed to be able to know how to write songs in that way, because it helps me open up and it helps me, let go of that. I'm still a work in progress. I can't say that I've gotten over that stuff overnight. That would be a lie, but I do love the progress that I've made over the years and how far I have come, though. It's not always easy to get up every day and to work even, having anxiety and depression and possibly bipolar. You don't always feel motivated to do things, and it's important to be transparent nowadays because mental health, thankfully, is now more talked about, and you never know, your situation could save somebody else's life. Like I've been told that my music does for people from time to time, which I'm glad about. I graduated high school 2017, 18 years old, and after temporarily living in Vegas, I later flew out to California after working and saving up my own money silently. And I dropped my first album in 2020, Baby Boy. And that era for me was more colorful. I was blinged out in cross colors all the time. A more youthful, kiddish vibe, but I still sang about, like, you know, hardcore love songs and love making, and, you know, and I also had deep songs in there, like Unhandsome was on here. Hold On was a positive, uplifting song, you know, that may have made you feel sad at the same time, though, because it's just deep. Like, I had songs like that, that was more the vibe of that. And then Scorpio Sessions, I dropped a year later in 2021. And that was me toning it down with the colors and becoming more grown and sexy, trying to come into my own. I was like 22, 23 that time. And I just wanted to show a side of me where I grew up a little bit, and I wanted to mature and give a more mature look and sound that went hand in hand with the music I was putting out. Living in Los Angeles those couple years was crazy, man. But I had a good time, and those were some of the funnest 2 years of my entire life. And it was great to get to start out my 20s in a place like that. I feel like it really helped me become way more independent. And now here we are in 2023 with This Is Me. Now that I've given you a little backstory on personal struggles I've gone through in my childhood, I have to say some of the recent ones that helped conceive this album, and are the reason that this album was conceived, is, you know, a lot of mental struggles. I could say the biggest thing going back to 2020 at first is one of the biggest mistakes I made was thinking that moving to a new city was going to fix all my problems. That was the biggest mistake I could have ever made at 19, 20 years old when I moved, because it came back and bit me in the butt like a year and a half later, like my second year there. And I realized, like, I'm still depressed. I still have bad anxiety. I'm still anxious. I'm still stressed out. There's still stuff from my childhood I'm not over. There's current stuff I'm going through right now. I had the biggest reality check after that, and I learned right then and there, like, don't ever think that something as simple as moving away fixes your mental health and the rest of your problems, because it doesn't. But it was something I needed, because I didn't need to up and move again later and make that same mistake and think, okay, when I land in this new state, it's gonna be like this, it's gonna be better, because that's not the case, guys. You have to do a lot more work on yourself in order to get positive results on your mental health, your spiritual health, your physical health, and all that good stuff. But I have my music, and that was always a safety net for me, and listening to music and having my favorite key artists, Janet Jackson, Bruno Mars, Aaliyah, Whitney, Mariah, all these people that I loved and listened to that kept me sane, because I didn't feel so alone when I heard their music, and they were inspirations for all my albums also. Money got low in Cali. I didn't know what to do with myself. I eventually got evicted from where I was living. That was tough, and I flew back home, and unfortunately went into a even more worse or just downward spiral mentally. There were a lot of days where I just couldn't get out of bed. I was glued to my bed constantly. That's such an ugly space to be in, and it also affected the album cycle of Scorpio Sessions, because it was hard to get the video shot, and promoting it and doing interviews was hard. Sitting down like this, it's such hard work to put on a smile and to mask what you don't want people to know and see. And I actually cringe to this day, because I look back at the Crush music video specifically. I remember I was going on day 3 of I hadn't eaten a single ounce of food because of how depressed and anxious I was from just life. But you can't tell in the video because I'm so giddy and I'm dancing and I'm smiling and I'm cheesing ear to ear. I had a really good way of hiding it, but it makes my spine tingle, because I know, like, that's the darker thing that was going on when I was shooting that video. During that dark time for me is when This Is Me started becoming an idea in my head, and I started conceiving the songs, writing down things that I just felt. I didn't have a beat, I didn't have a melody, I was just jotting down lyrics on paper, sometimes in my notes, in my phone, and whatever I came up with, once I found the music for it and I matched it with the lyrics, I slowly started conceiving every single song. The thing for this album is isolation, loneliness, anxiety, depression, heartbreak, family issues, you know. But there's also love, and you get the upbeat dance tracks, and, you know, I had to throw a little bit of fun in there too. But a lot of it, about, I'd say maybe like 85-90% of it is my story. Sometimes as a songwriter, I don't always write about me directly. I write just like for people in general, or I may write about somebody else in mind, but I'll tie it into like my story. There's not a single song that's 110% my story. Sometimes I write just for general purposes for other people, but a majority of it is my story. And I was happy that I got to conceive it and get all that out, and was skeptical about putting it out because I didn't know what people would think. I didn't know if people would judge me. I didn't know if people would laugh at me and or whatever. But what ended up happening was something I could have never have imagined ever. People received it so well locally from where I'm from, and that's just something that didn't happen with my first 2 albums, and it threw me off guard, because when I dropped my first 2 albums, nobody from my hometown Mount Vernon, Illinois paid attention. I got listeners from all over the world from other places, but my hometown didn't really care too much. I dropped This Is Me, and it started with social media, like posting it and just sharing that I dropped an album. People were inboxing me, calling me, telling me congratulations, and these were just all things that didn't happen at first. So I knew right then and there from that first day of release, there's a shift in the air, something's happening, and I'm kind of excited to see where it goes. I picked the date August 31st because that's the 8-year anniversary of when my dad passed away, and because a lot of the songs are family related and personal to me, I felt like paying a little tribute to him in that way, hoping that he's looking down on me, smiling, and that he's proud of me. Love you, Dad. Some of my favorite songs on this album are Attractive, Midnight Run, A Pain Like This, All Over Me, pretty much the whole album. The first single from this album is Attractive. It's a double entendre, I think that's the word, where it's saying you're like sexually attracted to somebody. You like their swag, you like their vibe, you like the way they look, that whole thing, but you also are attracted to them as in there's something attractive about them, like a magnet, and you're being pulled in to them, and you don't know what it is, but you like what's happening, and you don't want to be freed, you don't want to be saved from it. Now it's just like, okay, you're gonna make your move, what's gonna happen from here? What are we gonna do about this attraction? I'm really blessed to have been able to document all of my 20s so far with music. Here I am 3.5 years, 3 albums later, and this is the 3rd era that I've shifted into, and I'm excited to see how I continue to grow as a person, as an artist, and how my life continues to change from this. Again, it's been so monumental, the love and support I've received, not only locally, but just other listeners that have listened from around the world also. The fact that I'm a local known artist is kind of funny to me, because I think all the time, like, me of all people. But I mean, I feel very blessed and fortunate to have that, because I do know how hard I worked to get to this point. And again, all the stuff I went through behind the scenes, recording this album, and even prior to recording it, I do feel like it's me getting to enjoy the fruits of my labor in a sense. All that pain wasn't in vain type thing, you know? In closing, I just want to say, I don't share my story to give myself big ups. I don't share my story to come off as cocky or to think I'm all this and that. I share my story because I'm conscious of the fact that I could possibly touch somebody's life and change somebody's life. Something that I say in a song or something that I say in an interview like this right now could really save somebody's life. You just never know. And I just always think it's important to be transparent when you make songs like I've made. And you allow people to see another side of you that you've never allowed to be seen before. I think that's a beautiful thing. What's absolutely ridiculous is that I can never put a freaking video out on time. This happened the first 2 times with my first 2 albums. The first video and the first single just did not come out on time like it was supposed to. Gosh, dang it. But nonetheless, again, here we are, and I really hope everybody's enjoying everything. And in closing, I just want to thank everybody for all your support and your love. And comment down below what your favorite song from This Is Me is. I would love to hear it and love to see you guys talk and interact and tell me about it. To my Stanley, as always, I love you all.